I don't allow myself to buy a doormat anymore. About 5 years ago, I lived in an apartment complex in the heart of New York City. I was living alone at the time. My family lived in Rhode Island, and since I was new to the area, I didn't have many friends. I moved there with a backpack and 2 large suitcases. Boxes from home were on their way, but it didn't have to be something too big that wouldn't fit in the mail, and light enough that I wouldn't overpay. My family helped, but they had already helped me enough. I had just graduated from college and wanted to be an editor, and this lifestyle came not with the highest hopes, but with an immature energy that would alienate loved ones, but satisfy personal aspirations. My apartment was small, but filled more than enough. The rooms were clean, the utilities worked, and I was stressed but happy, even excited. The terrain was, in general, pretty rough. I had to grow a pretty thick skin so that I wouldn't take it personally if someone called me a name or tried to hit on me. Crossing the street used to be stressful, but now it was nothing. The bus stop was very close by, and the bus would take me where I needed to go. I didn't bring my car with me, so I preferred to walk and use public transportation. It's been about 2 years since I've worked at the publishing house, and I had to leave. I recently bought some shelves, some wall decorations, and a welcome mat at the entrance to my apartment. It was a fleecy rug with a rainbow on it and a white welcome sign underneath. Something sweet, subtle, a strange pride, a sense of home. The day of the incident went as usual. I woke up for work, did what I had to do, and came home. I didn't go to a club or a bar that night. I enjoyed the nightlife of the city. A few people would drop in on me from time to time, but no one really stuck around. I was pretty adamant about where I lived, and a few times I had to fight off lawyers. I always bolted my door, not wanting to take any chances, especially when I lived on the 2nd floor. To be honest, I was pretty pissed off that night. There was music coming from the car above me, and the couple in the next room were enjoying their relationship a little too loudly. It was a little after 8 p.m., and I was watching something on TV. I wasn't really watching much TV. I was reading what I needed from my phone and listening to office gossip at work. Although I did watch the evening news, I got that habit from my parents. I had to keep up with literary news rather than local news. Suddenly, I heard a faint, knocking sound. I jumped up from my seat on the couch, but I didn't turn off the sound I was watching. It could have been anything. The knocking happened again, stronger this time, more confident. I immediately stood up, panic gripping me. Who could be knocking on the door at this hour? The police, maybe the neighbors. I walked quietly to my door, crept up and looked through the peephole. A man in a red jacket with a hood hiding his face was staring at the floor. He looked small, like a child. He shifted nervously from foot to foot, waiting for my answer. I cleared my throat and spoke in my man voice, trying to look somewhat intimidating. After all, they were knocking on my door. "Hello, who's there?" The man turned to look at the door, and I saw tears streaming down the girl's face. I didn't even have time to think about it when I opened the door. Considering how old she was, no more than 9, I was more worried about her than myself. "Hey, little girl, are you looking for someone? Is anyone walking with you?" "I can't find my mommy." She sniffed her nose and wiped her eyes. She was wearing a simple red raincoat, soaked from the rain outside. I looked at both ends of the hallway and saw no one there. I knelt down to be closer to her height. I'm not a very big guy, but I towered over her. "When was the last time you saw her?" "She was here, but then she left." She kept talking, but her words came out an inarticulate whimper. "It's okay. Look, we'll find her. Do you know a phone number we can call?" She nodded and wiped her face once more. "Come inside. We'll dry you off." I gently held out my hand to her, which she took after a moment. She wiped her shoes on my unoccupied hand, and when she raised her head, her wide-open eyes surveyed the apartment. Not that I felt awkward at that moment, but my house wasn't set up for small children. I had a cute little cart with various drinks and collections scattered everywhere that I used for decoration. I led her into the living room, where there was a television. She took off her raincoat when I asked if I could leave it on the doorknob outside the apartment. Anyone I knew would recognize it, and it was unlikely that anyone in my building would steal a child's raincoat. I quickly ran to the bathroom to get her a towel. She was standing in the center of the living room, watching the TV. I handed her the towel and grabbed my cell phone. "Here you go. I'm Michael. May I have your name?" "I'm Mimi. I'm calling my mom," she said in her quiet voice. I offered her my cell phone, which she quickly took, and began dialing numbers. She had her back turned to me when the dial tone sounded. I stepped back into the kitchen to give her time. A small marble island separated the two rooms, allowing me to see her while I brought her a cup of water. After a few minutes, she spoke in another language that I knew well enough to realize. It was some kind of Asian language. She turned to me as I handed her the water. "What is this place?" she asked. "Apartments. I'm in block 5, first floor," I clarified. She spoke to the man on the phone again. She was silent for a moment, looking around the room as if someone might have overheard her. She met my gaze for a moment and then averted it. I felt a little awkward. Even though I knew this girl couldn't hurt me in any way, I was still a little on edge. It took a few moments before Mimi had the phone back to me. "She'll be here soon," she told me, looking down at the floor. I looked at the phone, contemplating whether or not I should report this to the police. Yes, her mother was on her way, but why was she missing in the first place? "Why did you knock on my door and not door number 1? "I'm sorry. Doctor number 1 is down the hall." "Your carpet?" "My carpet," I thought. What did she mean by that? "There's a rainbow in there. No one else has a rainbow." She said it simply, like it was obvious. I realized she was talking about my rug. The Petty Reed store wasn't the weirdest place, but I wasn't worried about someone kicking down my door because of the rainbow on my mat. I was hoping to show friendliness, but I didn't expect it to bring a kid to me. I went further and asked another question. "How did you and your mom break up?" I asked her in the calmest tone I was capable of. She didn't answer, but continued to stare at the floor. When the opening theme of the news played, she shifted her gaze to the TV. "Could you change it?" she asked. Of course, it was unexpected that she asked me that. But then again, I don't think the news is the most popular children's program. I found the remote where I'd left it, on the armrest of the couch, and turned on a children's program. Figured it would be better than the nightly news. She didn't seem ready to talk anyway. Well, the sooner she gets out of here, the better, I thought. 5 minutes later, a hurried knock sounded in the apartment. I jumped up from the opposite end of the couch from Mimi and rushed to the door. When I opened it, I saw a woman clutching a red cloak. Unlike Mimi, she had long black hair and a slight hump on her back. She looked younger than I expected. She was probably in her late 30s or early 40s. Behind me, there was a shout from "Mommy? Mommy?" I quickly stepped aside as the woman walked past me into my house. I held the door open, expecting them to come soon. The mother was talking to the girl in the same language I had heard on the phone. She cupped her hands around her face and looked intently at her child. She arrived about 10 minutes ago. Barely speaking, I said, but the mother didn't show if she heard me or not. Do you mind if we use your bathroom? She has a cut on her arm. I want to rinse it, Mom said. Yeah, sure. It's down the hall and to the left. The first aid kit is in the closet. I pointed her in the direction. My bedroom was directly across the hall. She led her daughter into the bathroom, peering into my bedroom, in my opinion, with undue curiosity. By this point, they had already looked all over the apartment. I don't remember any scratches on the girl, but I didn't search her either. While they were in the bathroom, I went to switch the TV, but I couldn't find the remote. I thought that was a little odd, considering I had put it back where I had put it before. Good thing everything is digital these days. So I launched the TV app on my phone and changed the channel from there. When I changed the channel to the news again, I was greeted with a video of a house fire that happened earlier that day. Well, I didn't miss all the nightly newscasts. I could hear them whispering furiously in the bathroom, which didn't surprise me. I'm sure the mom gave the kid a hard time, but I was under the impression that the cause was lack of adult supervision. Not the kid, but I'm not going to get involved. And in our last update overnight, the police department notified you of a local alert. We are looking for a group of individuals wanted for home invasion and murder. Several images of men appeared on the screen, all of them looking like ordinary figures, with nothing special standing out. They were all wearing black masks, with lean figures. They were breaking into homes and stealing electronics, jewelry, and anything that could be easily sold. What happened next made my stomach twist. During the latest attack, the homeowners had set up a camera that captured everything that happened on tape. On the TV screen was a man wearing a bright red raincoat. The recording was accompanied by audio and subtitles. I can't find my mom. I felt the blood rush from my face, quickly turned down the volume of the TV, and looked around to make sure no one was there. The bathroom light was still on, but the whispering had stopped. I turned to the screen again, and fast. Forwarded the clip. The same woman in my bathroom appeared on the screen. I quickly dialed 911 and turned off the TV, keeping my eyes on the bathroom, and rushed to the front door. Just as I was about to grab the handle, there was a heavy knock on the door. I froze in place, my finger hovering over the call button. A woman's voice came from the bathroom. That must be my brother. He's taking us home. Could you tell him we'll be right out? Sure. Just turning off the oven, I replied. Panic gripped me, and I slowly locked the door. I even grabbed the mail to impromptu close the door. As I was shoving it under the door, someone knocked again. I bounced off and tiptoed into the bedroom. There was another knock on the door. I held my breath as I passed the bathroom, but neither the girl nor the woman made a sound. I closed the door behind me and called 911. 911. What's your emergency? My house has been broken into. It's people, and I was interrupted by a sharp pop. They were breaking down the front door. They broke into my house, I whispered. I stepped away from my door. Sir, where are you? The people kicking in the door were screaming about smashing my stuff. And God knows what else. I knew my door wasn't going to hold long enough for the police to arrive, and something had to be done. Without thinking, I ran the only window in my room. I heard a woman crying, and at that time, I turned the doorknob. She was crying for help. She was screaming that they would kill her, that if I didn't help, they would kill her baby. I opened the window and pulled the door from the frame. The walls shook. Someone started pounding on my bedroom door. I climbed out the window, but someone's hand grabbed me tightly by the collar of my shirt. Someone was standing outside, waiting. I dropped my phone as I was thrown to the floor. I heard the 911 operator yell into the phone as it fell, shattering on the small rocks that littered the building. Someone's hands grabbed my throat before I could react. The man on top of me put his weight on my hips, pinning me down and holding me there. I struggled in his grip. I didn't even have time to panic. All I could do was react. I'll never forget the look in his eyes, the utter contempt for humanity. I still see the smile stretched across his lips. I saw my reflection in the blackness of his eyes. I tried to throw off his hands, tried to scratch his face. My head was splitting and my eyes were getting darker and darker. I couldn't hear him, but I saw him lean closer to my face. Saliva ran down my cheeks as he laughed a few centimeters away from me. I grabbed the ground beneath me and rushed toward the dark puddles with my last strength. Blood slapped my cheek before his laughter turned into a scream. Air rushed into my lungs as the man grabbed my eye, or what was left of it. I only had time to dodge as he pulled a small pebble out of my eye socket. It wasn't just the pebble he pulled out. Finally, I pulled myself together, and leaving the man behind, I ran. I ran as fast as I could and didn't look back. I ran across the street and started yelling at the top of my voice for help. There were several establishments there. One of them was a pizza place that still had lights on. I ran up to their door and swung it open, quickly finding the lock on the glass door and turning it. The staff immediately started yelling at me, probably preparing to defend themselves. I turned to face them, and they stopped trying to chase me away when they saw the dark red handprints on my neck. From that point on, everything happened like a blur. Eventually, the pizza place called the police, and there I was able to give them more information. But it took several minutes before the police cars arrived, long enough for me to realize that if I hadn't climbed out the window. By the time they arrived, there was no one left in the apartment, and even with the police officers around me, I was afraid to go inside. A team arrived and took samples of everything they could, swabbed the blood of the man who got on top of me, and photographed everything. My apartment was a mess. They trashed everything they couldn't take. The police officers took me to the station to write a statement. I told them about Mimi and the woman who came to see me. A few hours later, they gave me the latest news. They had found a man matching the description I had given them. He was missing an eye. He had been dumped in a dumpster 20 minutes from my house. Even after spending a week in a hotel and another week at a co-worker's house, there was no sign of my attackers. The cops were no help either. They had no excuse. All we could do was wait. I asked the police why they were following me, and they responded by asking if I had a firearm, to which they should have known the answer by now, but I said I didn't. They told me that all the other houses they suspected of breaking into had something in common. The first family they targeted worked closely with a local church. Another house was occupied by college students, and the last house the woman from the surveillance camera hit lived with a family who did not yet have us. Citizenship. What we didn't immediately realize was that none of these people had guns and wouldn't have chased away a small child. We were all easy prey. The police said they couldn't know how much the group knew about us until they caught the criminals, but they knew enough about me. Since then, I've moved, taken a few self-defense courses, and even bought myself a gun that I take once a year to show off at the shooting range. I jump up every time I hear a knock on the door, but I'll be ready for them to come visit me again. At least that's how I felt when I came home today and saw the red cape on the doorknob.